In the very beginning of this story, let me take you to a moment that no one expected. It happened on a quiet evening, inside a crowded film studio where lights were hot and tempers were even hotter. Sandra Bullock had walked into the room with her soft smile and calm presence, ready for another long day of work. She did not know that within the next few minutes, something cruel, unexpected, and deeply painful would happen to her. She did not know that a single sentence from someone in that room would cut her heart open, and she did not know that Keanu Reeves would rise in a way that would change everything, not only for her but for everyone watching. It started with a director who had a habit of shouting at everyone. He believed pressure made better films. Sometimes he was right, but sometimes he crossed a line. That day, he crossed it so hard that even he looked shocked at his own words. Sandra had been rehearsing a scene for hours, repeating lines, adjusting her expression, questioning her choices, trying to make everything perfect. She was tired, but she kept going because that was who she was. She believed in giving her best, even when no one thanked her. But suddenly, after one small mistake, the director slammed a script on the floor and shouted, "Maybe you are not as talented as people think. Maybe you should stop acting if you cannot handle a simple scene." The room fell silent. Every sound disappeared. Even the lights seemed to freeze. Sandra Bullock stood there, holding her breath, her heart shaking like a fragile glass about to break. No one expected those words. No one expected that level of disrespect. And the worst part was not the insult itself. The worst part was that people just watched. No one moved. No one spoke. They just stared at her, as if waiting to see whether she would cry, walk away, or force a smile. Inside her, something trembled. She felt small for a second, like she had gone back to being a young girl who never felt good enough. Her eyes lowered to the ground, not because she was weak, but because sometimes even strong people need a moment to breathe. And then, everything changed. From the corner of the room, footsteps moved forward. Calm, slow, steady. They belonged to Keanu Reeves, who had been watching the scene quietly, studying the pain that filled the air. There was something about him that made people feel safe, not because he was loud or powerful, but because he carried a kind of gentle strength that made the world less heavy. He walked toward Sandra without rushing. He didn't say anything at first. He simply stood beside her, as if telling her silently, "You are not alone." The director looked irritated. "Keanu, this is not your concern. Stay out of it." Keanu didn't even blink. His voice was low, calm, but it hit the room like a wave of truth. "It is my concern," he said, "because respect is my concern, because kindness is my concern, because no one talks to her like that." People in the room held their breath. No one had ever spoken to the director that way. But Keanu was not angry. He didn't shout. He didn't insult anyone. He simply stood there, tall and steady, defending someone who deserved better. He turned to Sandra, his face soft. "You are doing fine," he told her. "You are doing more than fine. You give everything to every scene. You bring heart, honesty, and light. No one gets to take that away from you." Those words, simple and gentle, were enough to make Sandra's eyes warm with tears she tried to hide. She had been holding her pain inside, pretending it didn't hurt, pretending she didn't care. But hearing someone see her, really see her, made the walls around her heart soften. The director tried to speak again, but Keanu lifted his hand gently. "We don't break people to make art," he said. "We lift people. We support them. We guide them. That is how real art is made." There was a moment of silence again, but this time, it was different. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of truth settling inside every person in the room. Because deep down, they all knew Keanu was right. Deep down, they all knew they should have spoken up too. The director, embarrassed, looked away. He didn't apologize, but he stepped back. And sometimes, even that is a silent admission of guilt. Sandra finally lifted her eyes. She looked at Keanu, and something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, strength, connection. Not romantic connection, but human connection. The kind that reminds you that you are not invisible, that someone cares enough to stand beside you when you collapse. The scene took hours to complete, but Sandra did it brilliantly. Every line, every gesture, every moment carried new depth. She wasn't performing anymore. She was proving something to herself. She was reminding herself that she was worthy, talented, and resilient. Keanu stayed near the whole time. Not to interfere, not to take attention, but simply to let her know he was there if she needed him. And sometimes that is all a person really needs. Someone who stands quietly beside them when the world becomes loud and cruel. After the shoot ended, Sandra walked outside into the cool evening. She sat on a bench near the studio, breathing in the peaceful air. But even then, the hurt still echoed inside her. Insults from strangers are easier to forget, but insults from people who lead you, who guide you, who work with you, those cut deeper. She heard footsteps again. Keanu sat beside her, leaving enough space not to crowd her, but close enough to show he cared. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't ask why she looked sad. He just let the silence exist, giving her permission to feel everything without explanation. Finally, she whispered, "Why did he say that? Why did he have to say it in front of everyone?" Keanu looked at the sky before answering. "Because some people forget that their words carry weight," he said. "They forget that even strong hearts can bleed. They forget that respect is a gift we should never stop giving." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "Thank you," she said, "for standing up for me." He smiled gently. "You don't owe me thanks. You deserve respect. You deserve kindness. I only said what was true." Sandra breathed slowly. "It still hurt." Keanu nodded. "Pain does not mean weakness. It means you felt something. It means you care. And caring is not a flaw. It is a strength." She closed her eyes for a moment, letting those words settle inside her. And when she opened them again, something in her had changed. She felt taller, lighter, stronger. His kindness had not erased the insult, but it had healed the part of her that wondered if she deserved better. Now she knew she did. The next day, something unexpected happened. Rumors had spread across the studio, and people began treating Sandra differently. Not with pity, but with admiration. They had seen how she stayed calm, how she handled the humiliation with dignity, and how she rose again without throwing anger at anyone. And they had seen Keanu Reeves stand beside her like a shield made of patience and truth. That image stayed with them. It became a quiet lesson in how real strength looks: silent, steady, compassionate. Over the next weeks, Sandra grew even more confident in her work. She took risks in her acting. She embraced deeper emotions. She trusted herself more. And every time she passed Keanu in the hallway, they exchanged a warm, knowing smile. A smile that said, "I have your back." One day, months later, the director approached her privately. He looked uncomfortable, like someone trying to swallow pride that refused to go down. "I shouldn't have spoken to you like that," he said. "I was wrong. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't emotional. But it was an apology." And in that moment, Sandra knew she had won. Not by shouting back, not by fighting, but by staying true to who she was. She nodded and said softly, "Thank you." After he left, Keanu appeared beside her again, almost as if he had been waiting. "You handled that with so much grace," he said. She smiled. "I learned from someone who shows grace every day." Keanu shook his head gently. "You learned it from yourself. I only reminded you." That day, as they walked out of the studio together, the sun setting behind them, Sandra felt something she had not felt in a long time: peace. Real peace. The kind that comes after surviving something painful and discovering your own strength beneath the ashes. This story is not about fame, not about Hollywood, not about celebrities being perfect. It is about human beings. It is about how even strong people can be hurt. It is about how even gentle words can save someone from breaking. It is about how kindness can rewrite the ending of a painful moment. And maybe the most important message is this: sometimes life will place someone beside you at the exact moment you need them. Someone who speaks when the world is silent. Someone who stands when you feel small. Someone who reminds you of who you are when you forget. Keanu Reeves was that person for Sandra Bullock that day. And maybe you, listening to this, will be that person for someone else.